One of the advantages of being as old as I am now is that I've had a lot of experience. I've worked across the care system. I've worked in secure environments and community environments. I've worked in residential homes and hospitals. I've worked with foster carers and as a foster carer. And in all of that experience, what I saw time and time again were children falling through the cracks, were people who were trying their hardest, people who really cared, but the system stopped them from being able to do the work that they needed to do. A system that was rigid and inflexible. I spent a lot of time with children who were in care, who'd experienced real trauma, and I could see that there was possibility for change that just wasn't happening. So I left my profession and became a foster carer for a while. I thought instead of working with a child just for an hour a week, being with them all of the time, I'd be in a position to really create some change for them. That wasn't what my experience was. I saw children who were fresh from homes, distressed, uncertain, and I held on to those children for months, even into years. But we weren't allowed to get clinical help for them. They weren't allowed to see a therapist or have an assessment or be understood because, first of all, they had to be in a secure and safe placement, which meant they had to go through the legal system. And I was frustrated. I understood that having stability enables healing, but that sometimes healing is what creates the stability in the first place. And the system just seemed to misunderstand that completely, that they wanted perfect stability with children who'd never understood stability in the first place. They'd never experienced it. I was told that once children reached secure placements, that was the right time, and then they would get the therapy, the support that they needed from the health service. When I stopped fostering after a number of years, I went back into the community so that I could pick up some of those children at that point, and I saw them. Children who'd gone into adoptive homes or secure foster homes, permanent placements. And I saw them getting onto the bottom of a waiting list that most of the time they didn't get to the top of. Because in all of the time that they had been waiting and waiting and waiting to be stable enough for the healing to start, they'd lost trust in the system. Their distress and their lack of trust escalated things. And so the safe and secure placements that they were in, the homes that they'd created, became unstable because those children were in such distress. By the time they went 12, 18 months to get to the top of a psychotherapy waiting list, they weren't in that home any longer. They'd moved. New home, new school, new health trust. If they were lucky, somebody would think that they needed help and put them on the bottom of a waiting list again. And sometimes they'd already been labelled as a child who was problematic and hard to reach. I was so frustrated with the system. I was pushing, as so many of my colleagues were as well, but can't we change for this child? Can't we create a system where we can see somebody earlier if the need is great enough? Like my colleagues, I came up against a brick wall. Policy, bureaucracy, there was always some reason why we couldn't do the work in the way that we really felt it needed to be done. It seemed ridiculous to me that we couldn't change that. All of us knew that it wasn't the right way, it wasn't what this child or that child would need. I became so tired, so burnt out, that I began to think, what what could we do differently? What would a new system be like? What would a system that was built around what a child needed rather than what is it that we've always done? What would that look like? What would it be like if the professionals who've got years of training and experience and skill could actually decide what work they would do with a child? What would that be like? And the idea for Selenos was born. And I've brought together all of these wonderful people. And we take a child at whatever position they're in, whatever state they're in, however close or far from their trauma they are. And we work with them where they're at. And we work with the people around them to help everybody understand what's going on and why. And we empower the professionals around a child to support that child properly. and we watch that child grow and flourish.